Okay, the next one that was handed to me was from Mr. Taylor. I usually take just one question, and then if we have time at the end of the open forum, come on to the others, if that's okay. So whichever you want prior to, you can ask that one, Mr. Taylor.
Well, I'm going to try and ask the question that I asked last time, because I haven't got a response to it, and I think it's terrible I've got to use up a question opportunity this time. So what I was asking about was the document produced by the City Deal, the summary of infrastructure decision making, which states that decisions on trees, so including the trees on Milton Road, are not going to be taken by the City Deal, but they're going to leave that to the County Council, and it says that the County Council have delegated those decisions to one of their officers. Now, I think that it's wrong that such important decisions, that are contested decisions on civic trees, are not going to be taken in public by accountable councillors and have been delegated to an officer. So, and I would like our local county councillors to correct that. And I have been to the board and the Assembly and suggested that this document goes to them to see if they actually approve the policy that they've published.
Yeah, well, that is the more appropriate forum, but I don't know if any county councillors want to briefly comment. I think it's really appropriate to have the county discuss.
Sorry. Thank you very much for your question, Mr. Taylor. And perhaps if you do ask the question at a full council meeting of the county, but also, I mean, I'd be happy to relay your concerns to the City Deal Board and to the City Deal Assembly. And I think that we're all concerned to be sure that the forums that are made available are open to the public in a full way. That means the public can participate in the way that the public wants to, but there are time constraints and so on. But nonetheless, we take on board what you've said and we'll follow through with it. Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Manning.
So I've got a response. I mean, the City Deal Executive Board is proposing these schemes, funding these schemes, and taking the final decision on these schemes. And in terms of the Milton Road scheme, I've not met anyone who thinks it's a good idea that they're proposing to remove the bulk of the trees. And yet, Councillor Scott is talking if she's standing up for residents' rights. She's consistently voted with the Conservative group to remove the decisions away from the local committees. She's voted against the amendment I mentioned earlier, which would have given local councillors the ability to call these decisions in to a committee of local city councillors. This is all guff. You know, it's all going to be decided by 3 people, 2 of whom don't even live in the city. It's disgusting.
Well, we're not going to have a big discussion on this, I'm afraid. But,
Just respond by saying...
well,
I think I should have a right of response to say that as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing everything that I can to support the residents of West Chesterton, and I would trust that the residents of West Chesterton understand that that's the position that I'm taking and that I've consistently taken throughout the
Well, why on earth did you vote against my amendment then, Councillor Scott?
okay, we don't want to get into a big free-for-all all the time. Councillor Price, very quickly.
Wow, this descended quite rapidly, hasn't it? I think it's important to point out that the City Deal was largely negotiated and set up by the previous administration of the Cambridge City Council, and the former leader of that was the chair of the Assembly for 2 years. They know very well. It was set up so it was across Cambridge, South Cambridgeshire, and the county. It involves all 3 of those authorities. The members of that board were originally made up of the leaders of those 3 authorities. Now, unfortunately, it's not all about Cambridge. It's about Greater Cambridge, an area that expands beyond the city boundaries, which is, I understand that a lot of what's going on and a lot of the proposals are in the city of Cambridge, but that was how that system was set up, and that is how it runs. Well, I was going to say unfortunately, there are currently no Liberal Democrats on either of the senior positions, either on the board or the Assembly. But they are still there. There are 3 Liberal Democrats on the Assembly, and they certainly do make their views very well known, and I think for this, the argument about trees and who's responsible for the trees to have degenerated into a sort of largely petty party political point scoring is to be lamented.
Yes, absolutely. I don't think there are any residents who want to see a political spat about this. I think we want us all to work together as councillors, as your representatives, and to have as many democratic and accountable forums as possible. And the local liaison forum was mentioned, and that is something that will be set up. It will be public. It will be there to engage everyone and to bring forward specific issues to the board and to the assembly. Obviously council will be involved in that, but so will other stakeholders. I think we have the opportunity to co-opt people, representative residents groups, other interested organisations. So we will be, I'll be doing my best to make sure that happens. I don't know who will be chairing it or organising it, but I believe there will be forums both Histon Road and Milton Road. That's my understanding. And there are some different issues and across different boundaries. But that's what I want to see happen is that goes forward on a really positive note, and that we do all work together to get the best outcomes. I'm sure that's what everyone here wants. And I don't really want to get into a big debate about it. We have a little opportunity to talk about it perhaps at the end of the item with Andy Campbell, because there will be the general context of the city deal, essentially in relation to stagecoach bus services and what may happen in the future. But there might be an opportunity to briefly sum up. So just take a quick point from the back.
Yes.
You want to wait for the microphone if you can.
I'm sure I can make myself heard. Could we have a date for the local liaison forum, please? I spoke to the county council on March the 1st, I believe, and it was promised at that stage that they were being set up. We are now in mid-June, and 3.5 months in, we're still having it promised that they will be set up. Could we have a date, please?
Yeah, I believe there's an initial meeting on 13th of June, but that is to sort of set out in terms of reference and the remit and other detailed issues about how the local liaison forum will take place. And I don't think that one is generally available to members of the public. But I think as soon as that is sorted out, there's a lot of detail to be sorted out about how this operates. So once that has been, a lot of that detail has been sorted out, then we'll have an open meeting for the public, and that to the future local liaison forum will be all open to the public. And that is my understanding of the process at this point in time.
But in the meantime, City Deal continues like a juggernaut.
Yeah, but this local liaison forum, this process will be starting very soon. As I say, this initial meeting on the 13th of June, so next Monday, and we'll be doing our absolute best to make sure we have the first of those public meetings available as soon as possible after that.
Right.
Councillor Sale.
Thank you. I will go to the meeting on the 13th of June, and I'll make sure that there's a schedule of meetings that comes out of that meeting for the foreseeable future, including one which will be arranged as soon as possible in order to address some of the issues that are raised, particularly about the Milton Road.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Taylor, do you want to quickly come back?
So it's twice now been suggested to me by this committee that I should go to the City Deal Assembly. I've done that, and the City Deal Assembly chair says that the public speaking slots there are only to get answers to questions. They're not to lobbying. That's the way it was run. On the local liaison forums, can I encourage you to use the North Area Committee? If you use the North Area Committee, then you get the minutes published, you get the calendars published, and also you give people a right to come and use the public speaking slot, and you give a right to record and report what's going on. All those things we might not get, depending on what you decide on Monday at your secret private meeting, where you're going to decide on how to run these things.
As I understand it, that my previous experience of the local liaison forum related to the new station proposed in Chesterton, and those meetings were not open to the public. They were for council officers, Network Rail, councillors, and other sort of stakeholders to attend. And we actually broadened that out into the public domain by having Network Rail come to North Area Committee and give presentations there to some very well attended meetings. So in terms of the precedent, my understanding of the way the local liaison forum is set up, that's the initial stage, and then this will be an advance on that kind of local liaison forum, in as much as they will all be open to the public. It will be akin, my understanding is, to area committees. but it will be focused on Histon Road and Milton Road, and will not sort of take over the agenda necessarily of North Area Committee, although we're always more than willing to have North Area Committee open to a meeting which is focused primarily on City Deal issue at the next appropriate point in time, just as we had a special North Area Committee back in February. Councillor Mann.
Just a point about the LLFs, the liaison forums, is first of all say that there is an issue with them around they're not decision making. So I think residents have got to come up with a realistic expectation of what you can get out of them. The only decision making body in this process is the executive board. So the only decision making body is the executive board. I think we've got to be quite realistic about what we can get out of them. They do set themselves up essentially, and I agree with those concerns around how it happens. But for the LLF for the Chisholm Trail, which is a separate set of meetings for that as well, we decided pretty much unanimously that it would be open to anyone who wanted to attend and they would be able to speak. The reason for not having it at North Area Committee, which I agree with Councillor Moxwell-Jones, or not so having it in as part of North Area Committee, is because these things span more than the North Area. So if you have just North Area Committee, you've either got to have the North Area Committee, a South Area Committee and East Area Committee and repeat everything, or you have them at one special meeting, you make sure that meeting is advertised to the North Area Committee and make sure that it's public. I think it's probably more efficient because we spent the LLF for the Chisholm Trail, we spent roughly 2 hours discussing how it was all going to be set up, which is probably far too long, but that was like the whole North Area Committee agenda, and ultimately all we decided was going to be open and everyone can attend. So I think you've kind of got to sometimes focus these things where you have to even get to lots of detail on them and understand they go over more than one area committee area.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I mean, the local liaison forum for Chisholm Trail and Abbey Cheston Bridge, I think again, it's a similar process.
For ages, and no one would let me speak.
Yeah, so I'm just quickly replying to that point, and then I'm going to come to you next. Just to say that was also set up, I think the term of reference and the remit of that was set up, and they will now be having public meetings, and the first of those will be on the 11th of July, 6:30 p.m. at Shirley School. So that is the process. I don't think we're changing, we're not having secret meetings. I think it's necessary for those sorts of details to be sorted out before we go to the first of our public meetings. So yes, lady of that.
I've lived on Milton Road for 45 years. When I came, it was a quiet road and very nice to live in. Now it's absolute horror because the county council have got no consideration for the people who live in Milton Road. It's a long, long road, and people. I haven't met a quarter of the people who live on Milton Road, and when we had a last meeting, I met one who wished we got a proper bus service, for instance. And I've been ill for quite a long time, and I've had a lot of time to sit and think and how I can help. And I think the only way is for the council, all the different members to get together and work together, not keep making separate committees, but you must work together, and that includes Conservatives. Where are the Conservatives tonight? Are there any Conservatives tonight? Exactly. So how can you fight it without the Conservatives helping you? Because the county council is Conservative, and they're not going to take any notice of us unless we work together.
Well, I absolutely agree with you, and that's kind of the point I was trying to make earlier, which is we are all here, we are your elected representatives.
But we have to insist you work together.
Yeah,
it worked in the war,
yeah.
and it can work now. It's the only thing that's going to save Milton Road and Histon Road, and I don't know what others are concerned.
Yeah, there are other concerns.
That includes commuter parking has got to go, because it's strangling people who live in Milton Road and the adjusting streets.
Yes,
Find a way of stopping commuter people coming in, and they've got to find a way of stopping people from the new village that's starting, coming into Cambridge willy-nilly, making it even more of a racetrack.
Yeah.
And my idea is to try, see how it works, of shutting one of the multi-storey car parks in certain hours so people can't come in. They have to use park and ride. And the bus service needs to be manageable financially. At present, it's crippling.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much. Well, you have a chance to ask specific questions about bus services when Andy Cameron joins us.
He's not here.
Yes, he will be. He's down on the agenda for 8 o'clock.
Because he's a big stumbling block, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, you have a chance to ask. Yeah, you might tell him that. Yeah, you tell him that when he gets here. But there is a big range of really complex and difficult issues and big challenges that Cambridge faces. And there aren't really any simple answers, I'm afraid. But we have to try and get to grips, all of us, who are elected representatives and representatives from residents. Yeah.
When I went to the general rep, I had nothing from the Conservatives at all.
Yeah, well, I'm afraid I can't answer for the Conservatives and how they may have communicated with you.
It's making you ineffective.
But we will be doing our best for you and to represent your views and everyone who you hear. Please, can I assure you on that? So it sounds like a very good thing.
Yeah. Surely I can do that. I'd like to respond to your question and thank you by saying that there is a body called the Joint Area Committee, and we have set up a working party to look into the whole question of parking throughout the entirety of Cambridge, looking at residents parking, looking at the need for the capacity for shoppers to come locally and shop, and I'm not talking about calling cars in to come and shop, but the ways that we can ensure that those people who do come in cars are going to park in spots that are allocated rather than simply roaming about and trying to find a spot in front of somebody else's house. So this working party is focused on that issue. We had a meeting on the 7th, we have another meeting on the 16th, one on the 21st, where members of the public can come and make submissions as long as they get in touch beforehand, and I'm happy if they contact me, and I'll endeavour to ensure that they can come and make their points known. And then we have undertaken to look very solidly into this issue, to endeavour to come up with proposals that can deal with the issue of commuter parking in particular, but with the right of residents to park in their own areas, and also issues of traders. We don't want the shops, for example, to go bankrupt because people can't come and shop there. So all these issues are being looked at, traders, carers, and so on. Well, yes, exactly, and we will certainly be doing what we can to encourage that. Thank you.
But the bus company's got to play ball.
Okay, well, you can answer that question shortly. I'm going to ignore you, Councillor Austin. Councillor Austin.
And they need to be full, and they'll pay.
Sorry, I'm sitting here starting to feel rather frustrated with it all. I recognise what we've got is a very passionate group of residents, particularly around the Melbourne Road and Histon Road area, and many of them are spending hours and hours and hours in trying to get to grips with this and trying to get their voices heard. We've had a consultation, but have people listened? That's one of the key things. It's a nightmare of committees and organisations and who to talk to, where you talk to, when to talk to. Even as a councillor, it is really difficult to get your voice in the right position to be heard. The one thing we can do is to persuade our city, the person responsible for the city, to vote against these things. So far, that's not happened, and I'm not trying to turn this into a political argument at all, but that is the person who is there, who we have to persuade to change, to vote against these things, to give us more time. Now, sadly, we've already had the Assembly and the Board, so the first hurdle we've lost. We've got the access study for the centre of Cambridge, which is going to change the amount of traffic going into the city. If only we'd had that modelling done, which would have waited to show what impact that might have had on these roads before we start thinking about how we actually design the infrastructure and the engineering solutions. So we have lost that first stage, but please keep on, keep your voices heard. And sadly, the way the system is at the moment, it does mean going to lots of committees like this, but certainly I, for one, will try and find a way of making sure that the right voices can be heard at the right places, that we can start to have an impact. Because so far, that impact hasn't been anywhere near as great as it should have been. Thanks.
Has anybody got the name of the Conservative
Yeah, sorry, we
person
have.
that I can contact? Because
Yeah,
I've
we'll.
got no way of contacting at all.
Yeah, we'll provide you some information when we get to the
I can't hear you,
vote.
sorry.
So we'll provide some information when we get to the break and make sure you know who to contact. Okay.